washing machine, fridge, smart TV, air conditioner, kitchen items, amadi makal khudingmakki home appliances kidamak thoina waningai leite. Kaisampat Kunjeng Hazari Lekai Dalaiba, Mezo of Impalna, Ahongo Mamalda, item khudingmakki up to 50% discount offer Tizari. Wedding set unulong matamdasu is special oiba discount kayasu amjari. Interest amatta yaudena 0% EMI loan gi kudong chabasu amjari. Kudong chabasi mahan biraganu ngasi maklengsin biraku Mezo of Impal, Kaisampat Kunjeng Hazari Lekai.
Adom gari macha darkar oibibra. Supnagi minute kuntragi manungda document ichang chandana Vespa amadi Aprilia gi apamba model sing supna dagi lupa lising tara khaktang puthok piduna loan oina lawba yabagi khudong chaba pizare. Akupa marol kidamak contact tawbirau 9089895330 amadi 9615823252 Tulasi Motors Private Limited Thangmaiban amadi Sangai Pro Kudong chaba si mangan biganu ngasi mag-contact tawbirau terms and condition apply.
Hello and a very good evening. Welcome to ELITETV's Open Debate in English. I'm Longjam Utpala, your host for tonight. Neil deGrasse Tyson quoted, "When students cheat on exams, it's because our school system values grades are more than students value learning." And Einstein said, "But if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid." Einstein's quote reminds us to think twice before measuring ourselves and others against inappropriate standards. Cheating can be defined as a dishonest act to gain an undue advantage. In educational parlance, cheating is usually associated with examinations. There are many reasons why students cheat in exams. One of the main reasons why students cheat in exams is because they are pressed for time. With lack of time, students resort to cheating because they are unable to finish studying portions. Then there's fear of failure, educational system pressure, family expectations, comparison with friends, cutoffs, and limited seats in prestigious institutions. Everybody is doing it, attitude, and many more reasons. And why do juveniles commit vandalism? Factors which cause higher incidences of vandalism have been identified and discussed. These causes range from student, parental, and educator perceptions of the school to the administrative style of educational leaders. That brings us to the topic for our open debate tonight, which is vandalism and cheating during examinations. Now, let me quickly introduce our panelists for tonight. Joining us tonight, we have, going from the left of my screen, we have Mr. Sapam Shyamananda, Career Counsellor. Welcome to ELITETV Open Debate, Shyamananda.
Happy to be here, Utpala. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Advocate Junior Luwang, Advocate to Supreme Court of India. Welcome to ELITETV Open Debate, Advocate Junior Luwang.
Thank you, Utpala. Thank you. And good evening.
Welcome. And last but not the least, we have Prof.Amar Yumnam, former VC, Manipur University. Welcome to our open debate, Professor. Okay. Once again, a warm welcome to all our three panelists. So let's start our topic for today. I'll start from Shyamananda, the first question for this round. Well, Shyamananda, does cheating during exams make you a criminal? Is academic cheating or juvenile vandalism a punishable crime? I'm sorry, I think I should point this question at Advocate Junior Luwang. So I'll just change the panelists. So can you tell us, Advocate, does cheating during examination amount to a criminal activity, and is it considered a punishable crime?
Yeah, Utpala, see, a crime is a crime, whether done by a juvenile or by adult, and the nature of the crime doesn't change.
Okay.
So what changes is the kind of punishment which can be given to a juvenile or an adult. That's the only difference in terms of
Okay.
punishment, because if it is if the accused is below 18 years of age, then he is basically governed by the Juvenile Act of 1986 as amended in 2021.
Okay.
So that's the only difference in terms of punishment.
Okay.
So as far as punishment is concerned, it's different qua an adult or a juvenile. That's the only difference. Now, coming to what kind of crimes are likely to be committed or usually committed during an exam, there are various kinds of actually acts defined as an examination cheating by various boards, CBSC, IGNOU, and by different boards in the different states of India, even at the central level. So, depending on the gravity of the offense committed, then the punishments are also different.
Okay.
Which are basically for adults.
Okay.
Now, I have examined the different acts which are defined as an unfair means in an exam, prescribed by or given by different boards and even by the CBSC. CBSC basically has prescribed around 21 acts which are defined as unfair means during an exam.
Okay.
And all, according to me, would be punishable under law. But
Okay.
of course, coming to Manipur, especially in relation to what has happened somewhere in Manipur, that comes within a different category because that basically involves vandalism of public property or a school property,
Okay.
which is punishable in the law. Now, summarizing all the acts, which are different acts of or the dim acts of unfair means during exam, I'll just broadly classify into 4 or 5 categories,
Okay.
which are usually committed and for which punishments are prescribed under law. Now, if you look at the types, one is a physical unfair means, in the sense that a person or a student brings along an answer, say academic stuff with him, written on a piece of paper, possible answer to a possible question. So that can be on a piece of paper or that can be on his or her physical body. So that, according to me, would be a physical unfair means. And second is that you see the law is catching up with technology, and
Right.
so is our examination system. Earlier, we used to have a definite or some known forms of unfair means which are mostly physical. Now the challenge is to tackle the electronic forms of unfair means in exam, which can be a Bluetooth device, a small speaker implanted on his or her ear. I think a case was reported in India where a person was carrying a Bluetooth device, by having a different kind of operation on his or her ear. So it could be a Bluetooth device, or it can be a small mobile hidden somewhere, and then he or her uses it for the purpose of communicating with persons or assistants who are outside the examination hall.
Okay.
Maybe his parents or maybe the trained runners. We basically call them examination chamber in Manipuri, so those kind of things. So now electronic cheating has become a very important form of examination unfair means or cheating. So that has to be tackled. There is in fact as much a crime as in the case of physical modes of cheating. Now the third form is that somebody is there in the exam hall and then he passes the question paper, and then the question papers are you see markings and you see some suggestive answers in the question paper, maybe by the invigilator himself or herself, or by any other person inside the exam hall. That also again is another form of cheating. And then I mentioned about trained runners, who are outside the exam hall and then to whom the questions are leaked, and then he or she tries to smuggle those answers to the examination hall for the purpose of helping the examinees. Now, then we have a very serious kind of cheating also. That's called impersonation.
Right.
Instead of me entering the examination hall, I engage somebody and then he does appear in the exam on my behalf.
Right.
Supposedly more.
I think Advocate Junior Luwang is having some network issues.
Which is copies of her peers.
Oh, okay.
Her peers can always pressurize her to a form of say unfair means, which is common in all the prescribed so acts of unfair means by different boards and even by the central academic bodies in India. Now, having understood what exactly forms unfair means, quote unquote, in examination, and as per the existing procedures in India, now let's see what is the punishment we are looking at, and what is that punishment, and presuming that. See, the Kangabok exam incident happened during a 12th standard exam.
Right.
Now, I presume that some of the students, or rather most of the students, must be below 18 because the minimum age for examining, for appearing in a 10th standard exam is, I think, 16 years. So 16, 17, 18. So most of them must be on the verge of entering 18 or little below 18 or maybe above 18. Now, we have specific laws on cheating in India.
Okay.
So one section is section 417 of the Indian Penal Code, which basically says that cheating is punishable with a punishment of either 1 year or fine or we-bought. And then we have the infamous or rather famous section 419, which is basically impersonation. Instead of me, and somebody goes and appear my exam. So that is punishable with the imprisonment of 3 years or fine or both. Then we have the General Act, that is 420, charge of that also possibly could be applicable. Now, as far as the Kangabok incident is concerned, since it involves damaging a public property, maybe I think, in my opinion, the Prevention of Damage to Public Properties Act 1984 will come into existence and will be applicable to them, depending on the gravity of the situation. There is a very so again, as I've said, that these are the sections which are generally applicable to cheating and to damage to public property, but the applicability of these provisions would again depend on the age of the accused. Now, if the accused is below 18 years of age, then it goes to a juvenile board. Then generally such kind of acts are considered as petty offences. Because this is not murder, this is not rape. So generally it's considered as a petty offence, and it goes to the board. And as we know it very well, the Juvenile Justice Act is reformatory in nature. Either he can be asked to be kept or to reside in a juvenile home for the purpose of counselling and educating him on what is wrong and what is not wrong. Second is that he can even be asked to stay at home, and then he can be asked to take counselling. So this is a kind of reformatory measure contemplated under the Juvenile Act. So presuming that the perpetrators or the accused are juveniles, but still all these sections will be invoked. The punishment section will be invoked vis-a-vis the crime, be it an adult or be it a juvenile. But when it comes to punishment, if it's an adult, then I have just read out the punishments which are prescribed for the different acts. Now, I will mention you a very interesting case which happened in, I think, 1993. It was decided by the Supreme Court. Now, the question is, if a student is caught with some paper on in his or her physical possession, he is caught. Now that question, basically he or she carried it for the purpose of taking his health, if at all any relevant question comes. She was caught with those materials by the invigilator, reported, and then punishment was given to her. Now she filed a writ petition before the High Court, saying what? Saying that yes, I had those materials with me, but I had never taken help of those materials with me because the pertinent question didn't come. Now, so the question is whether she can still be charged under these sections and then given punishment under the relevant laws. And she was basically banned from appearing the exam, and her exam was cancelled for that particular year. So now the High Court says that no, it's a petty offence, benefit of doubt can be given. Then some section interpretation was given, by the Delhi High Court, saying that it can be overlooked, this interpretation can be given. although she might be having the possession of that particular document, but it was not actually used. And then the High Court, then it went to Supreme Court because the CBSE filed an appeal against that order of the High Court, the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that the High Court's judgment is wrong because the particular provision of the CBSE procedures basically says that if anybody is found with any material which relates to the exam, then he or she is guilty of unfair means. Whether that material was practically used or not, that is irrelevant. That's the case law which was laid down by the Supreme Court in a case called CBSE versus Binita Mahajan and another 1993 supplementary 35 ACC 387. So these are the this is the case law. Again, let me just clarify again. There are two kinds of punishment which can be given. One is the police punishment or the criminal punishment, which I just I have laid out. So there is the criminal part of it because the question pertains to criminal part of it. The criminal part of it. Now the second parallel proceeding, a parallel process which goes on. Prof.Amar Yumnam has been knowing because he has been a part of the academic faculty for a very long time, almost his lifetime. The second part of the proceeding is a civil action. That action which can be taken by the board or by the examination committee or by who is conducting, or maybe it is MPSC, maybe it is UPSC when it comes to the competitive exams. The general process which is being laid down by various such examination bodies, public examination bodies, and by boards and the centers in India is that if a person is caught, then he or she is made to write a statement on answer paper that this is a case of unfair means, and then she or he is made to sign on the paper. Then he or she is given a different answer sheet. Professor Yumnam has been knowing, and to continue the exam. But the mere factum of a different answer sheet or a fresh answer sheet being given to him or her does not exonerate her from the unfair means case. So still both her answer sheets will be marked as unfair case matter. And then it goes to the examination committee, and then the proceeding will go on. She will be called or he will be called to the headquarters, and then he or she will be asked to examine or to explain as to what actually has happened and to defend him or herself. Then there are 2-3 things which follows. But of course, if he or she is found to be innocent, or if he or she is exonerated from her unfair means case, there's a different case. But if he or she is found to be guilty, then there are 2-3 punishments which usually follow. There's an administrative part of it. One is that her participation in the exam, in the whole exam, may be considered as null and void because she was found to have committed a crime, and hence the whole she will be asked to appear in another exam next year. Maybe thereby meaning that he or she will be considered as fail. Second is that if it is a very serious offense, maybe he or she is debarred from appearing in exam for about 2-3 years. Basically 3 years, if I understand correctly. That's the second thing. And third thing is that if it is very, very serious, it involves misconduct, it involves fighting with the invigilator, it involves protesting violently, it involves encouraging others to also indulge in similar acts of unfair means. Such kind of serious acts of unfair means, then even the board or the center can go to the extent of barring her or him from appearing in any such exam in the future. So these are the administrative steps which are taken up by the concerned board or by the concerned education body, apart from 2-3 other things which Professor Yumnam has been doing. And then these acts or this particular prescribed procedure or the punishment process is contemplated mostly by the relevant rules and regulations or the particular education body. Now, when it comes to a specific act for this kind of offences, now Manipur is yet to have a specific act which basically regulate this kind of unfair means.
May I interrupt you there, Advocate? As you said, we do not have that the regulation. is it board specific? Like, let's say CBSE will have their own set of rules and regulations in case of cheating, and then let's say BOSEM and COSEM will have their own. Is it board specific?
Yeah, it's basically board specific.
Okay.
Because what I find is IGNOU has a different set of rules.
Okay.
And CBSE has a different set of rules. But I think in content, I think everything is more or less the same thing.
Okay.
The wording can be different, the sentence can be different, the rules can be different.
Right.
But the substance, according to me, is the same.
Okay.
But if I know it correctly, Manipur is yet to have a specific law on preventing and controlling or regulating such unfair means in exams. A specific law is yet to be developed. I think some student bodies like DESAM, EMSU, and other student organizations have been demanding it for some time.
Right.
But Manipur is yet to have this kind of law in place.
Okay.
But nonetheless, we can resort to the common laws prescribed in the IPC, prescribed under other laws like the Enhancement Public Property Act 1987, all that. So it's not that Manipur government is helpless in tackling such issues, because most of the states do not have such kind of acts. Jammu and Kashmir has got a different act, a specific act on unfair means vis-a-vis exams. And even Karnataka, state of Karnataka, also has a specific act on controlling and preventing such unfair means in exam. I think the Karnataka Examination Something Act 1987. So that's how the law stands today. So summarizing what I just said, there are two kinds of proceedings which will go on parallel. One is a police action or the criminal action. If he or she is juvenile, and a different process in terms of punishment, although the same section will be invoked. If he is an adult, then a different process which is applicable for all the Indians in India, because it's a crime. He's an adult. She's an adult. So the criminal part goes on. But the parallel to this criminal proceeding is an administrative step which is contemplated by the relevant rules and regulations of the particular board or the examination.
And in this case, in the case that happened a couple of days back, this was during exam, vandalism during exam. So are these going to be like taken as unfair means, using unfair means and vandalism, or will it be clubbed together? And
I think it should be clubbed together. Because the facts are not very clear. So one set of facts which is emerging is alternative facts. One fact of set or disputed facts. One fact which is emerging is that they were doing indulging unfair means, and they were attempted to be stopped. Then the tempers went up, and then they went outside, and then indulged in the vandalism, acts of vandalism. Second is that they were complaining against the invigilators and the teachers there, because they were not following what they wanted to follow in terms of encouraging favoritism, whatever. But the facts are not clear. But I think the Department of Education has been entrusted with the investigation on this issue. But nonetheless, even if the most serious of irregularities have been presumed to have been committed by the invigilators, by teachers inside the room, let's presume so. Vandalism is not at all justified, because nobody can take law in their own hands, maybe adult, maybe juvenile. So the background or the context cannot be used to justify the criminal acts of vandalism which the students have indulged, and this should be tackled very seriously by the authorities. Of course, they are 12-study people, and presumably most of them are below 18 years of age. But this kind of an example should be set to demonstrate to the entire community and to the world that we take such very, very seriously, and then appropriate legal steps and also the procedural steps, as I have explained, to be taken against them, because this is a very serious offence. Under, as I said, there is a Prevention of Damage to Public Property Act 1984, and then other provisions of law, including the Indian Penal Code. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Very good point from Advocate Junior Luwang. I'll come back to you in the next round. My next question is for Mr. Sapam Shyamananda. Professor, I'll come to you in a while. Please bear with me. So, Shyamananda, Advocate Junior Luwang just spoke about the kinds of unfair means that are used. And one thing that came that is really highlighted is the electronic cheating. So that obviously would use technology and network and stuff like that. So what do you think, is there any, in your knowledge, do you think there's any such method that can be used to prevent this electronic kind of cheating, apart from frisking and body checking? Maybe something like a jammer or something that can be used around the examination hall. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, see, in most, I mean, there are so many exams getting conducted by different boards and different universities across India and across the globe, right? So I think I know for a fact that in many states, or even in Manipur, there's very detailed frisking, if I may say, and even last year when I was dropping off my daughter for the 10th grade exam here in Tamil Nadu, they didn't allow anything that is not transparent. When I said anything that is not transparent, if you're carrying a pencil pouch, it has to be transparent. Whatever is inside has to be seen. If you're carrying a water bottle, it has to be transparent. So there are very small rules that I've seen, not necessarily Tamil Nadu, other states have done. I'm sure in Manipur also we've done, but jammer and all is a long drawn, I would say, costly affair, which we have to deploy in every school, and it is. I'm sure the council must have thought about it, but the budget is on a higher side. But I think, it's a cost factor. But I think if we are able to do very detailed frisking, if we are able to ensure that the invigilators, there's flying squad, so many things are there, and if we're able to ensure that whoever is caught, cheating, as Tamo Luwang towards the end he just mentioned, right? If whoever is caught cheating is given the punishment that he or she deserves, rather than just a warning and then he or she gets away with it, right? I think that will stop the students from cheating to start with. But when some to enable a very I would say ideal examination environment, definitely frisking, making sure that all students reach the venue half an hour before the exam starts, appropriate, decorum is maintained, there is no talking amongst the students. All kind of rules are set by the council. There's very enough rules. I think the problem starts with the implementation at the examination center, right? So some teachers are a little flexible, and so in this case for Yaripok, I think one of the claim was that I don't know how far it's true, and I'm sure the media must have captured it correctly. The students claim that extra time was given in another class. Or another classroom, and they were not given that extra time, and I don't know how much extra time we're talking about here, but ideally there is no extra time allowed in any exam, and exam is once it's over, is over.
Absolutely.
So to answer your question in short, Utpala, if we are able to do enough or rather very I would say the frisking based on the steps that we have. I don't know how in some exams I read somewhere that somebody has this phone, and as you said, right, that let's do a jammer so that somebody should not be able to hide a phone, and then he or she should not be able to open WhatsApp and type the question and somebody is giving the answers. I mean, that's the heights of cheating, if I can say, right? But how did that student happen to get that phone in the examination hall is the first question. So the invigilator, the school authorities needs to be questioned, and the council should not give that school as a center in the next cycle, right? So I think, but again, we don't have unlimited number of schools. We have limited number of schools, and definitely the authorities from the council and the boards, they do their job to ensure that cheating can be avoided as much as possible. But such things happen. But on the day of the exam, ensuring that decorum is maintained, ensuring that if somebody is carrying something wrongly, they're frisked and confiscated at the entrance is I think critical to have a very smooth examination, so that other students who doesn't want to cheat are not disturbed. I think that's what I will come back in the next round of the dynamics or the impact on other students in the room, right? So that's all I can say at this point.
Okay, thank you so much for your views, Shyamananda. I'll come back to you in the next round. My next question.
Let me just join. Without wasting much time, let me just join.
Yes, Professor, please go ahead.
Well, I would rather look at it from a very different angle. Education is the only sector where Manipur has got some strength. We have our, even in Hyderabad, I see boys and girls from Manipur getting job here, getting employment and doing well. That's education. Other than that, Manipur, what is Manipur's strength other than education? But today, we are hearing something very serious happening in this social sector called education. And I'd rather look at it in a way very different from pure law and order issue. It's not, what has happened is not a case of a student using unfair means and the student is caught with whatever he or she was doing. It's a case where almost a social kind of character has happened.
Right.
And it's not just one individual stealing or looting from a home. It is in education, a group has come up with certain demands.
Right.
It's not unfair means. It's not unfair means being adopted by a single student. Well, let us look at what has been happening with education scenario in Manipur. We have been hearing so many instances of, well, students and even local people rising in protest for not giving adequate number of teachers, for not posting teachers, for not giving proper education, things like that. Things like that. So the department itself, the school education sector itself has been facing one problem after another, as evidenced by the protests of the people. But today, what we are encountering is that the nature of the protest has undergone a change.
Right.
Now we find demanded, forget it. Whatever we want to do, allow us to do that.
Yes.
Earlier, remember, the earlier transition protest was that you are not giving us building for education, you are not giving us teachers for teaching us. But today we have, okay, in exam we are doing anything what we feel like and you can't disturb. And we can't take this transition from the earlier process to this kind of process very lightly. Very lightly. It goes much beyond law and order. And we really need to examine this fundamentally. It should not be left. And for me, it really pains me that it has been left just an issue of the education department. I'd rather look at it as a social problem, and even with the overall governance, something fundamentally we need to take care of in this what has happened recently.
Absolutely.
And that is exactly where we need, above all, we need. How is it that earlier we had protests for school buildings, protests for teachers? Today we have protests in the exams. And that protest, as I said, is very different from unfair means being adopted by a student and trying to stop it. And that is rather easy. But this protest, we should rather take it as an opportunity for us to relook the entire education scenario. Entire education scenario, because it's not that Manipur education was an absolutely peaceful scenario. All of a sudden, some nuisance has come up, some disturbance has come up. No. This sector and the school education sector has been well in disturbance for quite some time.
Right.
And we know, we don't know what is the, even in this, it is for the whole government, not just for the education minister. It is for the whole government to respond to it, because most unfortunately, after hearing about it, I've got queries from friends from across the globe.
Right.
Because they're friends and they've learned it from online news or things like, Amar, what exactly is this? It doesn't serve the purpose of Manipur.
Yes.
So it is something which we need to be well attended to, think about, examine, and how can we ensure that our education, school education sector is without disturbance. So I'd rather take it, let us try to understand what is happening. What is happening? Because it is a case where we cannot say that school is without responsibility. It's a case that where we can say that teachers are without responsibility, the parents are without responsibility. besides that, the overall social scenario, the overall attitude which is evolving is that, well, for us what is important is just to pass the exam. For jobs, we'll do something else.
Right.
So whatever honesty you have had your education has nothing to do with what you can achieve in your life in the case of Manipur. You may be a very sincere student, performing exams wonderfully well, but when it comes to getting a job, it's altogether different story. Well, besides, the recent context is that last 3 years have been, the world has been facing, and we also have been facing serious, well, inconveniences in the education sector.
Right.
What has been the response? Let me ask, what has been the intervention of governance to address the, well, inconveniences with which the society, the students, the school have had? See, for example, say in Kurai or in Kaisampat, some problem comes up about education. In the neighbor, we have someone who can take care of education. But let's go away from city, far off, and in the rural areas, we don't have that. But at the same time, they see that they are urban people. So there are lots of socio-economic issues, there are lots of governance issues. I'd rather take this incident as an opportunity to examine the responsibility of governance, responsibility of overall academic administration, responsibility of teachers, responsibility of the school, responsibility of the parents, and time has come for us to apply our mind collectively and evolve
Right.
a kind of response to this kind of scenario.
There's a lot of there's a lot of drawbacks and a lot of improvements that is needed in the educational, and we keep discussing this over and over again. I just hope that we do see a lot of changes. So Professor, on that note, I'll my next question to you for this round, well, related to what you just said in case of Manipur, a newspaper article states that although Manipur is placed well in overall literacy rate, the pass percentage for 10th and 12th is mediocre. What are your comments on this, and why do you think this is happening?
You are asking to me?
Yes.
Well, as I said, what has been happening is that the education scenario, I'm talking about the qualitative dimension of education in Manipur, has been declining. Our boys and girls who are getting good jobs outside, they are not products of Manipur. They got their education outside somewhere, and we have our boys and girls across the globe now. And they are well placed in different professions, and that is not based on the performance, qualitative strength, robustness of the education which is prevailing in Manipur. Those who get education in Manipur, they all try to confine within Manipur because we are not able to provide that kind of confidence, create the kind of confidence in them with the education we are giving. Now, education is not a sector where we see improvement, and it is, unfortunately, education is the only one where we should be caring, and we know how things have happened or have been happening with the selection and the appointment of teachers. And we also know what has happened and what has been happening with the posting of teachers.
Yes.
And we also know even good teachers who had taught us, they were wonderful teachers. When all the schools were converted into government schools, we know what has happened to those teachers who were wonderful teachers.
Right.
Where they were posted and how they were treated, because those teachers were the ones who had confidence in themselves, committed to the cause of teaching, and they would not, well, play politics. But today, what is happening in the education scenario, right from appointment, selection and appointment to posting, things like that, is not what education should be like. Let us start with that. So in that kind of a context where whatever education you get has nothing to do with what you become in your life, and whatever teacher, whosoever teacher you get education from are also something well, let me just not mention what has happened there, and it's really bad.
So, Professor, can we safely say that all this is because the scenario, the worsening condition of education in Manipur
that is what I was trying to say. Let us try to relook at the whole thing.
Right.
From
So,
the earlier demanding teachers, today the protest is not for demanding teachers. The protest is for allowing to do whatever we feel like.
right.
You have not taken care to see to it that we get good teachers round the year, we are taught round the year. Well, number one, you have not taken that care. So you don't have the moral responsibility to impose your conditions in the exams. Let's take all this as interrelated. It's not something that one aspect of it is the only one which is important. It's all interrelated. The social behavior, what is happening in the society.
Is it because
has got a close
the focus is
relationship with
like, I think we've discussed this in one of the earlier debates, the focus is more on money. Could that be one of the other reasons why education is the way that the direction that the education is going in Manipur specifically? Is it because everybody is just focused on money and certain kinds of career rather than actually getting education, proper education?
As I said, we have our boys and girls working in Europe and America.
Right.
We have our boys and girls working in East Asia, Southeast Asia. We have our boys and girls working in the rest of India other than Manipur.
Right.
Did any one of them got into their jobs by using the same kind of means which anybody has to adopt today?
It's through that.
So when that scenario is so bad, you can't expect the education scenario to be all robust, well clear. No, let's be very clear on that. And that is coupled, that overall world scenario which is very, very discouraging. The same kind of scenario is available in the education sector, education branch of the government as well. So you can't say that you have to be clean when I'm very dirty.
Yes.
When it comes to the social sector, I also have to be clean so that others also are clean.
Yes.
And particularly so in education. Education doesn't go by training in the police academy. Education goes by the impact. The impact that teacher creates in the students. Not the left, right, run like kind of a thing in the police training. So let us be very clear that education is very, very different from what we usually deal with others.
Right. Thank you for your views, Professor. I'll come back to you in the next round. My next question is for Advocate Judith Luwang. Well, we spoke about you in the previous round. You spoke about the different methods of unfair means which are used in cheating in examinations. So, Advocate, can you tell us what are the consequences for cheating in competitive examinations? Say law or social, or I think you're on mute, Advocate.
Hello.
Yes.
Well, Utpala, competitive exams have the direct consequence of people who will be passing, landing up in a specific job and rendering his or her service to the government for lifetime or for whatever time frame he or she is selected for. So to that extent, the public service commissions, which are at the board and central level, and at the central level, at the state level and central level, of course, is UPSC. Then in case of Manipur, is MPSC. Or we have those derivatives. In case of Manipur, is MPSC. In case of Andhra Pradesh, is Andhra Pradesh. SC, whatever follows. So that is something which is very serious. If cheating happens in the 12th standard, of course it is serious, but not as serious as what could be happening in these public exams. So all these other exams, like the MPSC, UPSC, they have a different consequence, a little more serious. Of course, they will be treated as adults because all of them must be above 18 years of age.
Okay.
But they also when I see at their say process or the procedures for checking unfair means is much more stricter. And second, the good part is that such centers are not many, quite few.
Okay.
So the ability of the regulatory authorities to regulate or to control or prevent such activities is much more simpler in the sense that fewer candidates, more invigilators, and more say regulatory mechanism in place. But the consequence is the same. I mean, the law which I have just explained, subject to what the public commission rules and regulations say. But again, it can, if one is found to be indulging in unfair means in this exam, of course, then consequence will follow.
Okay.
There will be, he or she will be made to protest. He or she will be given opportunity to say explain himself or herself, and then it may, if at all, after such investigation, if he or she is found to be guilty, then of course it will lead to cancellation of his or her candidature. Or if he or she has already joined a post, then he or she would be given the punishment of relieving or having been dismissed from the post. So the rules and regulations vis-a-vis these public commission bodies are much more stricter. Now, Professor Amar talks about different aspects of our societal perspectives on why and how we have landed in this situation where we have to have the kind of debate we are having right now.
Right.
I partly agree with him. What we are, or substantially, I would say, agree with him. What is happening in our 10th or 12th exam is a reflection of our societal outlook towards life, towards job, towards what is to be done in life. Because gradually, unfortunately, we have come to a situation where we don't care about the means, but the end. The means are not as important as the mean. By hook or by crook, you try to grab whatever you can grab and then get what you want to get or what you want to get. Once the end is achieved, then the means are forgotten or easily say eschewed for the society. As is reflected in many, you can say, completely richer people or people in the higher strata of people in Manipur. Most of them you must be knowing are contractors, people who are like say power brokers, people who are in public services and who generally have a disproportionate amount of income, which is completely unparalleled.
Right.
You see, for a government servant, even for a VC like Professor Amar Yumnam, I don't think that his or her salary will be enough to build a 1 crore building in Manipur.
Right.
A house, because I know how much it costs and I know how much the chief secretaries and the public service in Manipur draw. They draw peanuts. Let me tell you, compared to other professionals like established doctors who have a very say established practice, or even lawyers. I mean, I'm not saying that the professionals earn. I mean, some of them, not all of them. Some of them, they are much more placed than the government bureaucrats and the academicians. I'm not trying to induce the academic conclusion or infer the academic conclusion, but I wonder how all these guys, have these palatial buildings, this and that. So it's a reflection of our societal outlook towards life.
Right.
I agree with that. Second, Professor Amar talks about the quality of education in Manipur. Now, what is happening is that it's my personal experience. I think till the 10th standard, I think our schools can be compared with any other school in India. I mean, that's what I stand, what I get it, because we have a very good school system. I mean, some of the best schools in India. I don't see any demerit in somebody who has done his schooling in Manipur. 12th standard, 11th standard is slightly lesser, is worse. I mean, I would say WORSE. But our higher education is completely washed out. I mean, that's my personal experience.
Okay.
I know my friends were teaching in colleges and universities, and I know most of them quite well. What is their background? What is the academic qualification? How they have fared in life? And I sometimes take pity on the students they are teaching too. So that quality education, I can see a lot of difference in. I mean, I'm not being serious about it. So that's also Professor Anand made a statement that most of those who are doing who have landed up in good jobs outside Manipur,
Right.
most of them are from universities and the colleges from outside
Manipur, right?
Yeah, that's because because our quality education may not, our higher education may not be as great as we want it to be. Second is that it also is a pattern in Manipur that after the 10th standard, generally people flock to other states to study to move to the higher studies. That's the second one. So it could be a coincidence, or it can be that both of them are correct. One is that people flock to outside Manipur because the education in Manipur or the higher education in Manipur is bad. Or second, the higher education is bad in Manipur because most of the well-to-do students, or at least those students for whom their parents can afford, they go out of Manipur. It can be a cause. There can be a cause and effect relationship, but the fact of the matter is that the higher education system in Manipur is not that great. That's as per my own personal experience. That's the thing. And now coming to the possible solutions. I'm just adding to what I have just said. Of course, this question was not posed to me, but I'll just add up some extra points to what I have just said. See, Samanda talked about jammers in exam halls. That, according to me, is a very good solution, because to disable Bluetooth devices, to disable mobile phones.
Right.
That, according to me, is a very sound technical solution to what has been happening or what can happen to to some of the electronic devices related unfair means. And second is that why not CCTVs in exam halls? We can have a CCTV. I don't know if it is already implemented in Manipur or not. We can have CCTV coverage of the. I don't think that is humanly impossible having CCTV coverage, because CCTV these days come for around 3,000, 4,000 rupees, or maybe even lesser. 1,500 is getting in Delhi, but in Manipur take it a little higher, so they can order some CCTVs. If the states can be regulated or can be looked after with surveillance cameras, why not examination halls? So this is second step we can do to check electronic devices related unfair means in exams.
Okay.
Now I also remember that one of the say usual or the common methods used by students to do cheating is that they will try to keep some books in the washroom.
In the washroom, yes.
And they take loo breaks. 10 minutes into the exam, and then you'll see a lot of them flocking out of the exam halls, and then then all of them are busy in the loo, and then they will flip papers and books, and then they come with say answers. So obviously we can have a timeline that 60 minutes, 90 minutes into the exam hall, nobody is allowed to go outside.
Right.
You have to be there. You can't go out unless there is some medical issue associated. Now, then why not? Then I also talk about the trends runners. Those examination. We talk in Manipuri when I grew up. The term is used was in Manipuri. It was used as exam chairman.
Okay.
Those exam chairman were especially engaged, and you will see them sitting with some possible answers and questions, and then you will see them solving mathematical questions, writing answers, and then some runner will be there, and then such runner will go to near the exam hall. He or she will give a quamatap to the security standing there, and the security guys will help in smuggling those materials inside the exam hall.
Okay.
So those for prevent what they kind of you can say mischief or some kind of a irregular practice. Why not we have a curfew under Section 144 of the CRPC? All around that, nobody is allowed to move outside the classrooms, and beyond a particular say distance, or within a particular distance, there is no movement is allowed. I mean, nobody is allowed to enter or even to roam around. Maybe 500 meters or 200 meters, which can be discussed. See, as far as the impersonation issue is concerned, why don't we require all the candidates who are appearing in the exam to put their ID cards with their photos on the decks.
Yes.
So that we know, the teachers can know that whether the person who is actually appearing is the actual candidate or otherwise. So this, according to me, is a very important step which can be contemplated and then implemented, accordingly.
But isn't that already followed, Advocate? I think they do need to carry I-cards and their exam hall pass to appear for such.
Yeah, according to me, they should be required to get in with their ID papers, put it on the table with a photo, so that impersonation can be checked.
Right.
If at all it is not done. And another important aspect is that, see, the devices we use these times are all multi-purpose devices.
Right.
So what you have can have 4 or 5 functions.
Right.
So we have those calculators, which are allowed, during a particular paper. Or for all the papers, I don't know what's happening, but in the question itself, it can be mentioned whether calculators can be used.
Right.
Like for this paper, calculators are allowed or otherwise. So there is something, because calculator may seem to be only a calculator, but you don't know, and because teachers and invigilators are not technicians like say possibly Sapam Shyamananda, who possibly is well deep in electronic devices. I'm not very sure about it, but not all teachers and invigilators are not like that. So we should have such kind of a system where we do write in the question paper itself for this subject, calculators are allowed or otherwise or not. And then if you are found to be in possession of a calculator, because we really don't know what device they will bring, because a mobile also is a calculator now.
Yes.
A small device, mobile, and then different. Once you say that calculators are allowed, then people will bring a lot of devices, which the teachers and invigilators may be difficult to detect.
Right.
It's actually only a calculator or it is a multi-purpose device. So we have to tackle this issue both from a legal perspective, from an academic perspective, but also from a technical point of view, because technology is always ahead of academics and law.
Right.
And the technology is, we are trying to catch up with what is being invented every minute, every second in the world. So that's something we should do it. And as I have flagged it in my first round, maybe the government should contemplate a different law for preventing and regulating unfair means in Manipur, a separate bunch of law, so that with a stricter punishment, with a stricter terms and conditions, so that we all know that this is the kind of acts which are defined as unfair means, and this is the process to be followed by the different academic centers to decide your fate if you are found to be using unfair means, and this is the punishment which will follow once you are found guilty. Right now, all these laws are scattered, everywhere. The damage to public property, unfair means, IPC section. I don't see any specific IPC section based on examinations. These are all general sections which are on cheating, generally, and the impersonation. So there is no law on impersonation in examinations. So we can carve out some kind of a exclusive rules and regulation for the purpose of taking this menace. I mean, it's academic menace, but it's a very serious menace, because we are basically trying to prevent crimes by people who would be basically selected for public service and the other services, of course, in the corporate sector, who we expect to do good to the society. So this is a very serious offense, and this is something we have to tackle at every level: academic, legal, and of course, from a technical point of view. So we should have a strict, you can say, combination of all these measures put together, so that we do have a set of strict principles. And of course, in schools, in colleges, maybe from the 9th standard, the laws which are to be passed by state government can be made a part of the curriculum.
Okay, right.
The curriculum that this is what follows if you are found cheating. Maybe that maybe for 20 marks.
That can be included in the syllabus so that they are aware of it.
They are aware of, because this being a serious issue. So these are the suggestions which I can put in, and then we can have those counseling sessions, academic awareness programs.
Yes, exactly. That was something I wanted to ask. The juveniles who've been caught do they have some sort of a counseling, a compulsory counseling or some sort of community service, or are they just given fine and barred from the exam, and is that about it?
Yeah, Utpala, the banning from exams, not declaring their results when other students' results are declared. These are all actions taken by the board,
Okay.
or taken by the examination body. As far as juvenile
Thinking along those lines, I'll certainly object to that.
well,
Education is fundamentally for equalization.
yeah, let me continue.
Education is fundamentally for equal.
Yeah, let me
Hello?
continue.
Yes.
Yeah, Professor, we can hear you, but
No, I'm not objecting to you. I'm not objecting to you. I'm questioning to our anchor. We should rather be thinking on how to bring about equal society, equal opportunity. Not like that. Not like that.
oh, that's one, Utpala, that's one part of it. Banning from further exams or not declaring his or her results, disqualifying her from the entire exam for maybe another 2-3 years or maybe for life. These are the you can say decisions which are usually taken by the examination body or a center. Of course, there is a thorough mechanism for the right to be heard, or the alteram partem committee makes a finding, and then he or she is allowed to have a appeal before the chancellor or before the controller exams.
Okay.
And if everything fails, then he or she can always file a writ petition before the High Court.
Okay.
That my candidature or my participation exam has been wrongly not allowed by this university, by this school, or by the MPSC, by the UPSC.
Okay.
That option is always available, and then once you file a you can say a petition before the High Court, and then there is another proceeding which goes to the Supreme Court. So
Okay.
those proceedings are allowed.
Okay.
See, and then important irony could be that I myself experienced it during my matriculation exam in Manipur, that apart from the students, actually it's invigilators also who try to encourage unfair means in exam halls. I have seen my own eyes.
Right.
I was sitting somewhere in examination center, not my actual school, but somewhere else. I was doing, according to me, quite well, writing, not copying anything, kept on writing. Then after completing my main answer sheet, the invigilator asked some of the students who were not doing well, that okay, take his paper and start copying. That's my personal experience. And when the time for submission of answer papers come, then I had to collect my pieces of my answer sheet from everybody. Okay, give it to me. And some of them complained that your handwriting is so bad that we couldn't even copy. Yeah, so handwriting, I paid the price for that also. So handwriting has always been bad. So I mean, I'm just talking about the general trend. And maybe that we can consider that just as students also go to other schools, other than his or her own school, maybe that in the same school where he or she goes, the same teachers who are functioning in that particular school or college or center may also be sent to some other school.
Okay.
And then a different set of teachers and students, teachers and visitors from some other, say, college or school. Neither from the original school nor from the central school or college may be allowed to be invigilators or the functionaries there. Some others, a different set of teachers and invigilators can be brought in from some other, say, third school or college or third, say, independent, unbiased, who are not known or not declared to anybody, can be or not related or associated with any students can be brought in, and then they may be allowed to conduct the exam during the in the exam hall. So these are some of the suggestions which I want to put in. Of course, Prof.Amar Yumnam has a broader outlook towards it. All that I can say is that our education system is a general reflection of our societal malice about life, about education, and we have to develop it together. And slowly and gradually, I think we will get there.
Yes, I hope we're, with all these discussions, I do hope to see some reforms in the education system as well as the examination methods. Thank you so much, Advocate. My next question for Sapam Shyamananda. Well, Professor Amar Yumnam as well as Advocate Junior Luwang mentioned about education in and outside Manipur, and Advocate Junior Luwang specifically said up to the 10th grade education is pretty good in Manipur. Now, I believe that in Manipur we still use the traditional form of education, and there are many, of course there are a couple of schools which are coming up with concept-based learning as well. Now, because with the changing world, I think what students really require now is concept-based learning rather than the traditional form of learning. So now, since you're not based in Manipur, and you do have children of your school-going children, what is your opinion on that, Shyamananda? Do you think the education system in Manipur needs to be changed, or it should just continue as it is, as well as the examination, the examination method? Do you think it's all headed in the right direction?
No, I think that's a very critical, I would say, topic that if we debate or discuss that, a lot of things will come up. But I think in this, I know we have a short time. See, as Tamo, Luwang mentioned, General Luwang mentioned about saying that until class 10, education in Manipur is quite competitive, and we have very good students. I would elevate that to up to class 12. Okay. Let's say 30 years ago, we had maybe 3 or 4 CBSE board schools that are under the CBSE board. Today, the count is very high. So the number of high schools that we have in Manipur that provides both CBSE and the council that's under the Council of Secondary Education Manipur, I think that the number is quite high compared to what it used to be 20-30 years ago. And I'm talking about most of the private schools, while on the other side, a lot of the government schools are shutting down. So definitely our teaching methodology, the kind of exposure to the students at a high school level needs to change to an extent that they become far more closer, or very, very closer to some to the kind of jobs we have in the market. So if you take a step back and understand why this mass cheating or mass copying is happening today, and Amar touched that a little bit, it's a societal problem is what he mentioned. But if you look at it, I want to pass class 12 exam for 2 reasons. One, either I should be applying for a job that has class 12 pass as the baseline, or I need to get into a college. But as Amar rightly said, what's the point of going into the next level of education or even entering a job when you copied in the exam and you had no learning. So definitely that is one problem that we need to solve. I think if we change, but there are also a lot of vocational courses available. If someone after class 10, I think we discussed this in the past debate also, that if I push my child to take up science when he or she is not comfortable studying science in class 11, I think it's a nightmare for both the student and for the parents, because at the end they want to pass class 12, but guess what? The student is not interested in or not capable of learning all the concepts clearly, and let's blame in both. We don't have good teachers, or we don't have enough teachers, as Amar said, that there are many schools where there are lack of teachers. Right. And then the students, I've heard many scenarios, and I've spoken to some of the principals, mostly in government schools. The flip side is that many private schools are also doing well, because they have some schools in 11-12, they hire the best cream of the students who come out in the class in exam. Right. But in the government schools, students at the higher secondary level, they call it, or rather the high school level, starting at about 6th grade, in many schools, maybe there are many students, I don't want to quote a percentage, but their level of ability to even be in that grade of 6th grade, 7th grade, they're just many schools, definitely the students from an economic background, they don't have the money to go for tuition classes and things like that, but they're not able to pass the exam with high marks in class 6, then comes 7, then comes 8, then comes, so it continuously goes up, and then the student has to face the board exam, and he fumbles over there, he stumbles over there, and look at the pressure that is mounting up from the parents, from the society, that okay, I am a failure in class 12, and as we discussed in the past, right, that I am a failure, and the society tags me as a class 12 fail student, who and someone who's never crossed class 12, and the student is a failure in life. So that pressure from all the directions is kind of coming to that poor, the weak soldier of the child. Right. So the cheating itself can be eliminated if we, and to a large extent is what I believe in, by doing two things, as Amar mentioned a little bit. Provide enough guidance, career counseling to students, provide enough support system in terms of teachers, ensuring that the teachers are completing the courses on time, ensuring that students at 6th grade level, because it's cumulative. Right. Someone who's not doing well in 6th grade, it's very difficult for that student to do well in 7th, 8th, it goes on. Right. So if we start cleaning up from the basics, from the elementary levels, from the grade 1 levels onwards, so primary education becomes very, very critical at this point. Someone who's not, so the dropout rates in government schools are very high if you look at it, right? So we're talking about just 39,000 students only in class 12, but there are many students who has already dropped out after class 10. Many students dropped out after class 8 because affordability is one question, but if you continuously fail in exam, you don't feel like going to school because I'm not happy studying. I don't enjoy study anymore. And guess what? There are so many youth exposed to drugs, and at the same time exposed to just menial jobs because they can't even write their names properly. If they can't even write their names properly, what kind of job in the market will they get into, right? Let's talk about tourism as a sector that we say that, okay, Manipur is going to be the next hub of tourism in India or wherever in the world, let's say, right? We are G20 summit is happening, so many things happening. But guess what? I open a 5-star hotel in Manipur, and our CM also talks very highly of that. Right. But the problem comes in who is going to, how many people from Manipur will be able to work there? Yes. Okay, the moment we start hunting people who can serve the international clients or international customers, we fumble to speak few words in English, we fumble to understand. So that particular skill set in terms of crash course of English learning for the government students, crash course of customer service, crash course of, very basic computer knowledge, crash course of, some of the skills that we are in high demand in manufacturing or other things in the area, or even I'm talking about the hotel management crash courses. Hotel management need not be learned over a period of 3 years. Right. It can be learned in on-the-job training as they work, and definitely some of the hotels in Manipur are having those courses, Utpala. But making the student to cheat in the school and having a situation where the students had to vandalize the school, it's a very sad day for the state of Manipur, where it creates that bad image across India and the globe, is what I can say.
Thank you so much for your views, Shyamananda. There's so much we can take away from what you've just said. And due to time constraint, I'll have one last question for Professor Amar Yumnam very quickly. Professor, do you think that some amount of leniency should be fair in such examinations, or do you believe in zero tolerance in cheating, as Advocate Junior Luwang explained to us how?
Well, I got.
Okay.
Examination and stopping unfair means I'll take these things as purely technical things. Well, I will not take it as the core role of education. Well, Junior has mentioned about quality up to the 10th standard, and Shyamananda has extended it up to 12. That's wonderful. 10, 12 standard, wonderful. My question is, have we generalized it? The fundamental cause is that even in the valley, while we were students in the school in the 1960s, a good teacher was teaching in an interior school in Ukrul, and a good teacher in Infant would be teaching us, and whatever we learned were the same. But today, what is learned in the good school in Imphal is very, very different from a school which is a little far away from Imphal.
Right.
We are not able to generalize the quality of teaching. There has, over the years, emerged a fundamental inequality in the quality of teaching across districts. so long as that inequality gets widened and deepened, the kind of problem which we have encountered recently will keep on recurring. The question is, what for me I look forward to is that, well, can we look forward to a time when such things will not be discussed? Because there will not arise any occasion for such things to be discussed. Because we are able to generalize the quality of school education across the state to the best one. To the best one. But the way things are, say, as I said, even within Imphal, the kind of access to quality education is not generalized. It should be that all the students going for study up to class 10, well, there could be a little up and down, but not the huge difference in the quality and the learning which we are observing today.
Yes.
And let the inequality, well, which was there between valley and the mountains of Manipur, well, are of a different kind than it was in the 60s. So education today must live up the kind of education we give, the kind of facilities we create, the kind of opportunities we create should be such that we try to provide equal opportunity to all the children.
Right.
Because any kind of lack of access to equalization will be detrimental to social peace. Earlier, it was not so detrimental to social peace. Of course, it had been, but today, the challenge to social peace, as long as we widen and deepen the access to good education, I agree with both our junior and Samana that they're good schools, absolutely good schools. But all our schools are not good schools.
Right.
And exactly the question of government schools which Samantha has raised, at the end of the day, are we going to allow our society to sacrifice the contribution of the parents who cannot send their children to private schools? Are we going to send our children to government schools to produce rejected citizens? No.
Right.
So the overall scenario in education today, we really need to apply our mind. We need to go much beyond unfair means. For me, unfair means, I'll take it as a rather pure technical problem.
Okay.
Technical problems are easier to address. But the way inequalities is emerging within education itself is not inequality between rich and the poor, but the background for emergence of wider inequality in the society is being created in our education. How do we address it? And we need to go to that aspect.
A very important point to ponder on, Professor. I think because of time constraint, we have to come to an end, although there's so much more we'd like to discuss on this. Thank you so much for your views. I'd like to thank all our three panelists once again for being on our open debate. It's been wonderful and very insightful on what's happening in Manipur and also all over India as well as the world. Thank you once again. So viewers, that brings us to the end of this open debate, and I'd like once again thank you to all the panelists for taking the time to come to our show, and to our viewers, thank you for watching our show. And what we can take away today is we need to provide enough guidance and support system to our students. Start cleaning from elementary level, standardize and generalize quality of teaching, create equal opportunities. That's what Professor Amar Yumnam said. And we need a big reform in our education system. Thank you so much, viewers, for watching our show. Please do not forget to leave your precious feedback and do let us know if there are any social issues that you'd like us to cover in our show. Thank you all. I'm your host, Utpala Longjam, signing off for tonight. See you again next Monday with another exciting topic. Stay safe and have a good night.